Hey everyone! So today's digital skill is all about how to make a website using HTML and CSS. Those two languages are the most popular languages for making websites, and they're what is used to create sort of the scaffold or the framework for your website, and also the style of it. So the different colors and how things are laid out. I think first of all, we're going to maybe have a look at this Brilliant Labs website here. This is the one for all of our Maker Fun challenges that we've been putting up since we started working from home. And this website, if we were to have a look at what's happening behind the scenes of it, we'll be able to see the HTML and the CSS. So one of the cool ways to do that is if you're using the Chrome browser, this one down here, which I would recommend that you use for this project, then you'll be able to right-click on any website and go to Inspect, and then you're going to see the different HTML and CSS that's on this website. So you can pull these little windows to make it bigger or smaller, and you can click on this little arrow here to be able to just look at certain parts. So it might look a little scary and a little strange right now, but we're going to jump into it and we're going to demystify this and be able to make our own websites. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the tools that we'll need in order to do this project. And at the most basic level, all we need is Notepad or something to write our code on. So if we're on a computer, all we have to do is search, and if we bring up this Notepad, this is all that we'll really need to write our code with, which is pretty cool. If you want to step it up a little bit, there is also a free program called Notepad++. So let's just go back into our browser and search for that. Notepad++. So if we go to downloads, and then we pick the right version, the newest version is probably the best. And then you have to decide if you have a 32-bit computer or a 64-bit. Most of newer computers will be a 64-bit, but if you have kind of an older one, maybe stick with the 32. So you just have to save it, then click down here and it's going to do the installation. This is Notepad++, so it looks pretty similar, but it's going to give us some special colors and things like that, and some special tools for writing code. So we're going to have to create a folder, whether you want to create it inside of your My Documents, or if you want to do it right on your desktop. I'm just going to create one on my desktop. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say New, I'm going to say Folder, and I'm going to call this Website. So we need some place to hold the files that we're going to be using, because we're going to be creating a couple other folders along the way as well. We can close it out for now. And we need to create a new file. So I just created a new file on here. So all you have to do is press this little plus button here, or go to File and New. I'm going to make this bigger. And then we're going to save as. So this file, we want to make sure that we save in the folder called Website. The standard for the very first page of any website is usually called index.html. And it's important that you put the .html in there, otherwise your file is not going to know that it's supposed to be in HTML. So now I'm going to go back to my desktop, and I'm going to open up my website folder, and I'm going to save my index.html right there. Okay, now that we have our tools in place, we're going to get started with writing our HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it works like a language, like English or French or any of those, by having its own special way of writing things. So just like in English we have our own grammar, and the way that we spell things, HTML has its own language as well. And what it works off of is something called tags. So tags are written in a specific way, and they use the angled brackets on your keys. So the angled brackets, they look like the greater than and the less than sign. And you press shift, and for the the closing angled bracket, it's where the period is, and the opening one is where the comma is, and it also uses the forward slash, which is shift and the question mark. So for instance, your tags always come in pairs, so it would start like this, an opening angled bracket, and we'd say tag, and then a closing angled bracket, and then in order to close out that tag, we do another opening angled bracket, and then a forward slash, and then the same tag again, and then close it with the closing angled bracket. So this is the format of how all HTML tags are written. There are very few tags that only have an opening tag and don't have a closing tag, but we'll talk a little bit about those later. But this is the way that 99% of tags in HTML are written. So the tag is not an actual tag, so I just use this as an example. So we're going to actually fill this in with a tag that's an actual tag in HTML. So one of the most important tags is to let your code know that it is supposed to be recognized as HTML. And the way that we do that is we just use the HTML tag. So HTML. And you can see now that in Notepad++ it's turned blue, and that's because Notepad++ is designed for coding, and so it recognizes when you have a valid tag and it turns it this blue color. And another good feature is that when you put spaces in between your tags, it will keep track of them with these little lines here, so that you know, because you can actually nest tags inside of other tags too. So this HTML tag here, if we wanted to put a sentence in here on our website, we can nest a P tag, which is a paragraph tag, inside of here too. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've entered down here from HTML, and what you should do is use the tab button on your keyboard to take your code over a few spaces. So it doesn't matter, the computer can read your code no matter how it looks, so long as it's in the right order. But for you to be able to go back and make changes to your code, when you start nesting things back and forth, it's easier if stuff is indented. So I'm just going to use that format, and I would encourage you to do the same. So we're going to use the angled bracket to open it, and we're going to put a P in there and close it. Then I'm going to say hello world, and then we're going to close that tag by opening up the brace, putting a forward slash, and then another P, and close that angled bracket there. And that, you can also see, is lit up blue, which means that it's a good tag here. And you see that we don't have any spaces in between here. It's not necessary, but any spaces you want between your words, you can definitely put those in there. And now we're going to test it and see if it's going to show us what we want. So File and Save. I'm going to minimize here, and we're going to go back to our website folder on my desktop, and then you just double click on Index, and that should bring up your website. And you can see it says Hello World. So we're cooking with gas. Great. Okay, so now we're going to add a few more things to our website. So we still have our HTML tag, you can see here, and we're going to add a head tag, and we're going to add a body tag. So the head tag always needs to be there, and it's kind of unseen. So what I've put in there is a title tag for Rachel's awesome site, and I'm going to show you what that'll actually show up like on our website. So let's say File and Save, and now we're going to reload our website. So we'll go back here to our website folder and double click. but as you can see now, it's going to say Rachel's awesome site on the top here. So that's what that title in the head actually does. And you'll see actually that the body tag doesn't seem to do much, and it doesn't really, but it's just to let our code know that that's going to be the body of our website. So that's what's going to show up there. So we're going to actually start building the scaffolding for our website right now. So what we need is we need to figure out what our site's going to look like. So what I think my site's going to look like is I'm going to have a navigation bar on top, then I'm going to have 3 different sections. So one's going to be the about me, one's going to be my projects, and one's going to be my favorite section. So let's start building that. Okay, so here is our scaffolding code or the scaffold of our website. So you can see here we have our HTML tags and they match up. Then we have our head tags up here with our title. Then we have our body tag. So we had that in our last section of the video. So we can see that that is what wraps around everything else that is in our website. So now we have our navigation tag. That's where our navigation is going to go. We have a header tag. So a header is kind of like the top part of your website. So that's going to have like a little introduction to ourselves, you know, a little graphic made with some text. And then we're going to have our About Me section. So we've got a section tag here. We're going to have our project section. So that's our section tag again. And then we're going to have our favorites inside of a footer. Because at the bottom of your website, you should always have a footer, and we're going to put some of our favorite websites and things in our footer. So this will be the main sections of our website. Now you'll see these green parts right here, or they're not a tag. What they are is a comment. So this is how you would write a comment in your code. So anything that's within these angled brackets with the exclamation point and a dash dash, anything that's within here won't be shown up on your website, but you'll be able to see it. So when you're writing your code, it's always good to put comments in there so that you remember what goes where. Okay, so let's add some content to our website. So for right now, we're going to leave our navigation. We'll kind of do that near the end. But we're going to focus on adding in some content for these sections and for this header. So we need to talk a little bit about how we show text in particular on our website. So we kind of already used a tag earlier in the video called a paragraph tag. And if we remember correctly, we do the bracket, P, close the angled bracket, and then we can write a paragraph in here. Ooh, I can't spell. And anytime we need to add any paragraph, doesn't matter if it's multiple lines or one single line, we'd have to put this P tag in here for a new paragraph. So if you wanted to have that space in between the letters. But another really great tag for showing content is the headline tag or heading tag. And that has different sizes. So H1 is the biggest one, and it goes all the way down to H6. And I'll show you the difference between those now. So you can see that the text gets progressively smaller as you go down in size of heading. And that's great because they're kind of scaled uniformly, so they look really nice together. So if you want to have your text like really important like headlines on your website to show up, you can use this H1 tag, and then if you want it to be like less important or a little bit smaller, you could use an H2 or an H3 all the way down to an H6. So it almost creates like a progression of what's important. Obviously, if something's bigger on your website, it's supposed to be seen as more important and you're supposed to read it first. So these H tags are great for that, or headline tags. So let's add in what we want here. So on our heading, we want to have, say maybe our name. So in an H1, you could be like, hi, Robotic Rachel, because I love robots. Okay, now we have some content in here. So I filled in my About Me section. I filled in just a little kind of headline about the projects that I'm going to put in, and then I put in a little headline for where I'm going to put some of my favorite sites in the footer. So let's have a look. So you want to Control S for save, and then let's come over here and you just refresh your page. Mine's already refreshed. You can see you have your content there. Okay, now let's learn how to put an image in our website. So I want to put an image in my About Me section. So right under the About Me, I want to have an image here of my dog, Indy, because I love her and she's great. So the first thing that we want to do is put in the image tag. So it's img and then src equals, and then we want an open and a closed bracket, and then we close with the angled bracket. So whatever we put in these two quotation marks here are going to be where our image is stored. So first things first, we need to create a folder and we need to put an image in there so that we can get the right address for it. Now you may notice that I'm not putting another tag at the end of here. So image tags are one of the very few tags in HTML that don't need a closing tag, because what they do is they actually embed an image into it, so they don't need something to close it in order to make the code understand that that's the end of it, because it's kind of all encapsulated in one. So let's go ahead and go back into our file structure here. So remember the website we have on our desktop and in a folder called website, and we have our index.html file here. So right here we're going to create a new folder. So you can either right click and go to new and folder, or up here on the little ribbon you can do it from there as well. So we're going to say new folder, and I'm going to call it images. Okay, and it's in the same folder as our index. So I'm going to open that up, and I have a file already downloaded of my dog Indy. So I'm going to take that and bring it into our website folder, and then pop it into our images folder. So now the picture of my dog Indy is in our images folder. And you can see when I hover over it, it's a JPEG format, so JPG you can see right here. So let's go back to our website here, and what we're going to do is we're going to say that it's in a folder called images, and then a /, and then we're going to put the name of the image. So it's indy.jpg. Great. So now if our folder was someplace else, so if it was in an images folder, and then maybe you had a folder called dogs, and then you put it in there, all you have to do then is write dogs and another, so you have to give it the exact path of where it's located. Oop. And every time you go into another folder, you use the /. So let's have a look here. We're going to Control S, save it, or File and Save, and then we're going to open up and refresh, see what we get. Ooh, perfect! Now we have About Me, Indy's picture, and then the information about me. So we'll change with the sizes and stuff like that a little bit later. We just want to get our content in there now. So next up, I think we're going to talk about links. Okay, so we've added some links here to the bottom of in our footer where our favorite sites are going to be listed. So I added the Brilliant Labs website, the Department of Education, and the B-Board coding site because those are some of my favorites. And you can see how they're written is with this ahref, and then there's an equal sign and a double quote, and you put the link to the website in there, and then you close the tag, and then you write in the wording that you want your link to show up as, and then you close the tag just like normal with the angled bracket and the forward slash, and you close the A tag. Let's have a look here and see what this does on our website. So let's switch over back here. Oh, we have to save it first. Control save. Let's go back to our website and we'll refresh it. So let's come down here. I don't think I saved it. 1 second here. File, save, refresh. So now we can see here we have these different links. So let's click on one. We'll go to the B-Board coding site. So you see it takes us here, but it takes us away from our page, right? So we want these to actually open in another tab. So let's go back and change that in our code. So all we have to do is here within the first tag, the opening tag, we want to put target and then equals, and then we'll open up a quote, and we need to use the underscore, and we want to say blank. And then we need to close it using the quote again. And so this is an attribute that we're giving to this link here. So we're going to say target equals underscore blank. And what that's going to do is make it so that it opens this link in a new window, or a new tab in this case. So I'm just going to Control C, Control V, and put this in each of my tags. We're going to come back here and we're going to refresh it. And let's see. Okay, it opens these links in a new tab, which is great. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so now we're going to learn how to make the links for our navigation. So you can see here I have the href tags here, but instead of putting a link to an external website or even another page within this website, what I've done is put a hashtag and then the about, projects, and favorites, so the different sections that we're going to have on our website. So this will allow us to link to an anchor in the same website. And the way that we then link those two up is, so what you're going to want to do is come down to the section that you want this link to be linked up with, and you need to give this section the same ID that you've given it up here in the link. So in the About Me section, I'm going to say ID equals, open up the quotation marks and say about, and then close the quotation marks. So now this hashtag about links to this ID of about. So what's going to happen is when we click on the link about, it's going to take us to this section of the website. So we're going to do the same thing for projects here. And make sure you put it within the section tag. So let's Control Save, and we'll come over to our website, and let's refresh it. And we're going to go up to the top, and we'll see up at the top we have our navigation now. So our About takes us to our About Me, our projects. Ooh, that one didn't work, and our favorites didn't work. Let's go back into our code. Projects, ID projects. Oh, I can see why right now we didn't close this projects. And Oh, somehow we got rid of the closing angled bracket on our footer. So that's why it didn't work. See, even small little things. So we'll control save this again. And we'll come back over and see what we got. So we'll refresh. So projects takes us down to projects. And favorites takes us down to favorites. So that's good. So we still have some work to do in making sure that our navigation bar stays on top all the time and that it looks a little better, but we're cooking with gas now, I think. This looks really good. All right, everybody. Now we're going to get into maybe what you would consider the more fun part of this, which is styling it and making it look really cool and dynamic. And for us to do that, we need to add another language in, which is called CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheet. And that's what's going to allow us to change colors and fonts and the way things look. And yeah, so let's get started with that. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a style sheet, and we also need to link that style sheet into our project. So first thing I'm going to do here is say new, and we're going to say file and save as, and we're going to call this styles.css. And let's press save. So this is going to be our CSS folder. Now we're going to come back into our website folder. So go back into website, and we're going to create a folder for this too. And we're going to put our styles.css inside of that folder, just like we did with our images. So let's come back to our code here. Oh, okay, because we moved it, we're going to have to save it again. Save as, and we're going to put it inside of our CSS folder. And we're going to say we want to replace it. Yeah, because it's the exact same file. So we have our blank CSS file. So now we're going to link it in here, because we need to let our HTML know where to go and pull our styles from. You're going to want to put inside of your head tag. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to say link rel equals, and then we're going to let it know that this link is going to be to a style sheet. And then we're going to link it just like we did. So with our href equals, and open the quotes again, and we're going to just tell it where it is. So it's CSS, our CSS folder, / and it's called styles.css. So very similar to what we did with linking an image, right? We did the src, and then we linked to images / indie.jpg. So we need to close this tag out. And again, this is another example of one that doesn't need to have like a closing tag, like it doesn't need the / link. So this one again is embedding something into it, so we don't need to do that. So now we have the link to our style sheet, so let's go ahead and save that. And now we want to come over here and we want to write our first style for our website. You want to first put the HTML tag in, so whatever part of your website you want this style to hit or to impact. So the first one we're going to write is just one that's going to impact the body. And so you'll remember from back here that the body of our website is all of this, right? So it's going to hit everything basically that we can see on our website. So we're going to say body, and then you use these curly braces, which are right next to the letter P on your keyboard. So we're going to open the curly brace, and we're going to enter down, and we're going to use a specific tag in CSS or an attribute, a style. And there's tons of them. You can look up different ways to target things in your CSS. Just look for that online and you'll find tons, and we're going to use a few as we go through here, but one of them is the background. And you see that it kind of selects that for me as an option when I click it. That's what's great about Notepad++. And then you press the colon, and then you give it the style that you want. So I want our background to be yellow. And then you need to use a semicolon. So the semicolon is right next to the L on your keyboard. And then you want to enter down again, and you want to close that tag using the closing curly brace. So let's save this. And let's come over to our website and see if it did anything. Refresh. Boom, look at that. Now our background is yellow. Pretty cool. Okay, so we changed the background color to one single color, but what if we wanted each of our different sections to have their own background color, so that as we scroll down, it kind of made a nice sort of transition? Well, we can do that as well. So instead of hitting the body tag with our background, we could change the background of our navigation, we could change the background of our header tag, and we could change the background of our section tag and our section tag here, and also our footer tag. The only issue is that we have two sections, right? So if we say section, background, and change it to a color, our about section and our project section will both be changed to the same color. But there's a way that we can separate those two from each other, and that's if we give them this attribute here, which is class. So in our section of About Me, we're going to give it the class of About, and on our section here, which is for our projects, we're going to give it the class of Projects. And that's going to allow us to be able to target that specific spot with some different CSS. So let's come over here into our styles and have a look. So what we can do is, if there's a unique tag in our code, then we just have to name the tag here. So nav and background color, and give it a background color. So we can write the color in, or we can give it this hex code, which is a way to identify color. We'll talk about that in a second. And so in our header, which is also a unique tag, we can give it a background. Now when we get down to these section tags, because we're trying to call a class instead of a tag, we have to put a period before it. So with the header, because it's a tag, it doesn't need a period before it. But when we're trying to target a class inside of a tag, we need to put a period before it. So we have period about, we've given that a background color, and we've also done the same thing with projects here. And then our footer, because it is a unique tag, we've also given it a background color. So these hashtags with the random numbers and letters behind them, they're not random, but they're called hex codes, and they represent colors. There's this website that you can use in order to come up with some color schemes. So it's coolers.co, and it allows us to kind of look at different color schemes that maybe go together. You can obviously pick your own colors 100%. You can even just write the letters or the numbers, or the words, I should say, in. So if you want it to be red, blue, yellow, you can use those ones, or you can come to a website like this, and there's lots out there for color schemes. And I like to go to Explore, and then you can see that there's already some palettes that other people have developed and other people have liked, or you can pick on a color too. So I just picked turquoise when I was looking, and I liked this color palette right here. So I wanted my website to kind of go from this lightest color down to a darker color. So I wanted my navigation and my header to be this color. So you click on it and it copies that hex code, and I just came over to my code and I just Control V'd, so to paste, and just transferred those colors in there. So let's go ahead and save that and see what it looks like. So my website is over here, and I refreshed it, and you can see that we've got this sort of tan color, and then the About Me is this pretty turquoise, and then for whatever reason Projects is white and it hasn't taken the color, and then the darker teal down here for my footer. So that's sort of strange. We'll have to go and look at our code here. So everything looks okay here with the CSS, although we've got this little error button or error thing here. So let's come and look at our HTML. And I can see the problem right now. So in our section right here, we've got this sort of rogue quotation mark here. So that doesn't need to be there. We only need quotes around different attributes. So we have our quotes around our ID and we have our quotes around our project. We definitely don't need this quotation mark right here. So that's probably throwing everything off. So let's Control Save, and we'll come back to our website and see what we've got here. Now we've got it. Okay, now we got to talk a bit about spacing, because we've got these background colors in here, but we still have these white bars in between, and that doesn't look so great. And our text is all the way over to this side, and we might want a little bit more space in between there so that things aren't looking so close together. What explains why things look the way they are now is the box model. So we're just going to come over here and have a look on this website, which is a great website for HTML and CSS resources, really for any web development resources, and it's called w3schools.com. And so the box model here explains why those spaces are there. So you've got some different options that you can play around with. So your content here would basically be like your pictures, your text, and all that kind of stuff. So there's something called padding that is between your content and the border of your content. So in this case, ours right here, anything that is outside of this color, so you could think about this outside of the color as the border. Okay, and the padding would be between the border and the content that's in here. So you can see there's no padding here because it's right up against where the border would be. And then the margin is something that would be outside of the border. So it would be the space in between. If we look here, like this white space here, this would be the margin. So it's the space between the border and another piece of content. So that would also be why there are some white lines around here. So that's all the margin right here. So in our current website, we have no padding, we have no border, and we have some margin right here. And what we want to do is change that. So we want everything first to kind of be reset back to 0. So let's have a look at our code here. So if we go to our body tag, we want to set our padding and our margins to be 0, right? So we want to kind of have everything just go back to 0 and have no space in between it. Then we want to give it the space that we want it to have. So we do want to have some padding here, right? That's going to help the look of our website. If we come back here, we do want to have some space in between where these colors change, right? We don't want them to be right up against each other, but the best way to do that is to give it some padding. So that'll be the space between where the top of the color is and where your content hits. So we do want to give it a little bit of padding, but we want to, again, we're going to set it all back to 0 for everything. Everything in the body is going to have 0 padding, 0 margin, and then we're going to give it back some padding to make it look a little bit nicer. So we could go in and we could change the padding on each one of these different sections, but we can hit them all at once as well. So you can have more than one tag hit at once with the same style attribute. You just have to put commas in between them. So we want to hit the header, we want to hit the section, and we want to hit the footer. And because we wanted to hit both sections, we don't need to split it up into about and project. So if we just use the tag of section, that'll get both about and project. So we want to add some padding in, so 100 pixels at the top and 100 pixels on either side, and 150 pixels from the top to the bottom. Now you can play around with these and make them be whatever size you want that you think looks good, but we'll kind of go with these for now. So we'll say Control Save, or Control S for save, and let's come back here to our website and we'll refresh. Ooh, that looks a lot nicer, right? We've got some space in between. We don't have any of those white lines anymore because we got rid of all the margins. Now it's just kind of a nice progression down in colors. So we might need to, change font colors or do a little something like that, but we're getting there in terms of how it should look. Why don't we also, while we're here, center some of this text too? So for everything in the sections and the footer, I think I want to have that text centered. Cool. That looks pretty good. And we'll keep this over to the side here, and we'll do our navigation in a second. Okay, now we're going to start playing around with some of our text attributes. So we're going to first take off all of the normal styling that we have on our headline tags. So we're going to put the margin down to 0, and we're going to make the font weight go back to just the normal font. And then in our biggest headline, we're going to change the font size. So we're going to make it a pretty big font, make it show up really good. And then on all of our paragraph tags, we're going to change the font size of those as well. And we're going to change the line height. So line height is one of those attributes that's the space between the lines. So we're going to give it a little bit more space so that it doesn't look so squished in together. So let's go ahead and save those and have a look and see what it does. Awesome, so this is looking pretty good. See, now we have a bit more space and our font sizes look a little better, but maybe we want a different type of font. So this is like just the standard Times New Roman, like serif font, but we can also go to Google Fonts, and we can look at some other fonts and pick a cool one that maybe we want to use for our headlines. Let's have a look here. Pacifico is kind of nice. So if you've picked a font that you want, make sure it looks good. You can have a look at the different glyphs and characters. You want to just say select this style. And then up at the top, you can see that you can view your selected family. Now this, it's perfect. It gives you the exact link that you want to put into your code and the exact CSS rule that you want to have. So we want this to just highlight all of our, or hit all of our headline tags. So let's go ahead and grab this. So this is a link to the font on the Google website, and it also embeds it into the style sheet, or tells your code that it's a style sheet. So just like the last time we were adding a style sheet to our code, you have to go to your index.html and you want to add it just like you did your other style sheet up here in the head. So you just Control V to paste it in here, and then we need to go into our styles and we want to add that font into our headline or our heading tags. So let's go back to the Google website, and it gives us our font family. So we'll just copy this, Control C, come back to our code, and we want to have it go in here. So it'll hit both of our H1 and our H2 tags. So let's press save here. I can't remember if I pressed saved here, but let's have a look, see what that does to our website. Cool. So now we've got a different font for all of our headlines. That looks pretty cool. And you can add a different font in if you want for your text as well here. So I'll leave that to you. Now I want to change the text on our header so that it's a little bit bigger than the rest of the headline tags that are there. So for instance, I wanted to have this be a lot bigger than this because I'd like this to fill kind of the whole page as soon as you load it, so that way when we press our links there's more for them to sort of scroll to. So I want this text to be a lot bigger. But if I just were to change the style attributes for the H1, it's going to change this, but it's also going to change this. So I just want to change the ones that are in this header tag. And we can do that. So all you have to do is you put the tag, and then you want to put right afterwards the tag that you want to hit. So I want it to be in the header tag and just affect the H1 in the header. So I'm going to say font size and make it be 115. So you know, quite a bit bigger than the 75 we have for all the other ones. And I also want to change the H2 that's in there. So I have to just do header H2 and change that as well. So let's go ahead and save that. And let's see what happens here. Nice. So that makes it quite a bit bigger. It sort of fills up the page. And now I also kind of want to make some of the words in here stand out. So I want to make coding and robotics and brilliant labs kind of stand out. And I think I maybe want this text to be a little bit bigger too. So let's come over to our code. So first of all, I want to make this a capital, I think. And, oh, this is supposed to be a H3. Never mind. Maybe that'll help it too. So let's save it. See if that makes it a little bit bigger. Whoop. Yeah, so that makes it a little bit bigger. That looks good. And so let's make these stand out here. So let's go over to our code, and we're going to put a tag around here called strong. So the strong tag usually just bolds something, and it will do that. So I want to put it around coding. So you just say strong, and then you again just end or put an end tag in with the forward slash. So strong. Now that we have those strong tags in there, we're going to give them a style over here. So let's just pop it at the top here. We're going to say strong. And we're going to say color. And I want to give them the same color that maybe one of my background colors here. So maybe the about. So that's like that teal color. So let's copy that color. Put our semicolon in and our closing curly brace. And let's save that, and we'll save this, and let's see what we get. Cool. So now it makes these stand out. Maybe I'll do the same thing for the robotic Rachel here. Let's come back here. So all we have to do, the beauty of the when we change it in styles is then if we add that up here around robotic Rachel, and we save that. Cool. That looks pretty good. Or maybe we want it to be one of our darker colors. I'll leave that up to you. Okay, now we're going to do a bit more with images. So first off, we're going to want to probably change the size And I like the look of rounded borders on my images. So this picture of my dog Indy, I want to make it a little bit smaller. And also I want to make sure that it's rounded a little bit. And we can do that all with styles. But the first thing is we need to make sure that we give this image a class. So we can be able to select it in our CSS. So we're going to call it class Indy. Why not? And while we're here, we're also going to give this an alternate text option. So there's an attribute called alt and equals. And so what this is used for is if somebody is visually challenged and they're on your website, there's special programs that will read the website to them. And when it comes across a picture, if you don't put this in, it's not going to know how to describe that picture. So this is just the text that's going to show up on a screen reader. So I'm going to say cute dog because she's a cute dog. So let's start on resizing first. So the best way to do that is to just use a program to resize your image. You can do it in your style sheet, but it's better to just resize it before you use that picture. So if we were to go to images here and open it just with any sort of image editing program, we can crop it and we can change the size of it just by using this program. Okay, so it's a little bit smaller. Let's go check our website. That looks good. And now we're going to round the edges of this website or of this picture. So we can do that using a CSS style. So let's go back into our CSS. So I'm going to call on the Indy style, because that's the name that I gave it. Open the bracket, the curly brace, and I want to put border radius. So that is the style that will change how rounded the edges are. So a border radius of 50% gives you a full circle. And save it. Refresh. Cool. So we've got the About Me, and the picture is circular. So while we're here, I also wanted to, we're going to talk about this My Projects section. So if you did the project this morning with the digital artwork using binary code, you could put a picture of that in, or any other projects that you've been working on. Or you can also take screenshots of maybe some Scratch games. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to open up Scratch. So Scratch is just a program that's used to make animations and little video games. If you haven't used it before, there's lots of videos on our YouTube channel about how to do that. But I've got a few things already made here. So I want to share this project here. I made a sound machine for my dog Indy. So I want to have a picture of that then links to this project. So you can use a tool that's built into your computer. It's called the Snipping Tool. So if you just go to your search here and you click Snipping Tool, you'll be able to open that up, and then you can just choose mode, and I'm going to pick a rectangular snip, and then you just take your cursor and that takes a picture of it. So I'm going to say File and Save As, and I'm going to save it in my Images folder for my website. So I'm going to say Scratch Game. Call it that. And press Save. Then we can exit out of there. And I'm going to take some pictures of the rest of my games too. Okay, so now we have all those pictures. We're going to put them into our favorite section. So let's go ahead into our code, and we can just copy how we put in the indie picture as well if we want. Save us a bit of time. So we said image src. So let's grab that and let's put it down here. So we're going to have 3 of them in here. So the first one that I have is one about sound. And it's the alternative text is it's a sound machine. And the other one that I have is something for data visualization. So data visualization. And the third project that I have is just an animation. Oh, I don't think animation has 2. And it's a history animation. So you would fill these in with whatever you were doing. If you wanted to put pictures up of an art project that you did or something like that. And so now we need to rename these. So we see we have the images that we screen captured using the Snipping Tool. So we just need to get the names of those. So these ones were saved actually as PNG files. So instead of .jpg like we did with the indie picture, we're going to have to use the name and then .png. It's just a different file format for pictures. So we want to have the sound one. I can't remember the name we called it. We called this one Scratch Game. .png. Okay, so let's save this. We'll come back to our website. Cool. So we have all of these images in here. But we want to maybe make them link and maybe make them a little bit smaller and maybe make them rounded too. I don't know, whatever you kind of want to do. But we definitely want to have some space in between them, and we want them to link to the website where they were at as well. First things first, I'm going to resize these images. Define custom. And I want them to be maybe around 400. So now I'm gonna come up here and say that everything, all the images in my projects class, I want to make rounded. So let's come over here to our styles. So, dot projects. IMG. And we want to make the border radius 50%. So we can just copy this style right here. Okay, so let's save it and see what we got. Great. So they're a little bit smaller here, but we didn't get our rounded edges here. Let's go back and see what we can do. So if we come back into our styles, we can see that when I wrote this style here, I used the bracket instead of the curly brace. And you can see that it didn't light up properly either. So let's save that, see what we get. Cool. They look a little strange because they're not fully the same size as each other. So, I don't know, maybe we don't want to leave the border radius as 50%. So let's have a look here. If they were fully square images, then that would be helpful. So I guess we could change them to totally square as well. So let's come back in here to edit our images. So website, images. So we could crop and make them be a square if we wanted to. Okay, so now that they're all square, they should look a little bit nicer. Yeah. Now we can also put some padding around the edges too, and if you wanted to edit the pictures a little bit so you didn't have these white spots, that's also totally something that you can do. But we're going to change the padding a little bit now. So we'll say padding. And maybe 10 pixels or something like that. There, we have a little bit of space in between them. Looks pretty cool. And you can do that with images of anything that you've been working on. So let's go ahead and make these links now. Okay, so if we come back into the code here, let's have a look at how we made our links down at the bottom here in our favorite sites. So we see we've got the href tag, and then we have the words Brilliant Labs, and that's what shows up when we see it on our website, and then we close out that a tag with a closing tag. So essentially, to make a picture into a link, all you have to do is have the image, when you call and embed the image, be what's in between these two a tags rather than the text of Brilliant Labs. So let's use this as an example. So we're going to copy this whole thing. So Control C, and I'm going to bring it up here. And I'm going to say Control V. So right now we have that link up here. So we want to take our whole image tag and then cut it. So Control X. And we want to paste it in where it says Brilliant Labs. So we highlight Brilliant Labs and we say Control V. So now that image is going to be what's in here for our link. So let's have a look and see how that looks on our website. So we're going to make sure that we press save, and we're going to come here to our project and we're going to refresh it, and now you can see that this image is a link because that little hand comes up. So if we click on it, it's going to take us to the Brilliant Labs website because that's the link that we had in there, but we want to change that over to the link to our Scratch game. So let's come over here to Scratch, and I'm going to go to the sound machine, and I'm going to grab the link for it, which is right here. Control C, back to our code, and instead of being the Brilliant Labs website, we're going to replace that with our Scratch game website. So Control V. So now we have the Scratch link in there. Make sure you have the double quotes around everything. So Control Save again. Back to our website. And we'll refresh. And now we'll see it's going to take it to the Scratch game. Pretty cool. So I'm going to link up all the rest of my games too, so you can do that. If you just have images, then just put the images in. You don't need to have any link. But if you have something online, that's how you would make an image into a link too. So now what we really need, I think, is some help for this navigation up here. It's looking not so great. So we're going to make some changes to here so they look a little bit more like buttons, and we're going to take the underline away so that they don't look so linky and they look more like buttons, and we're going to make them all uppercase. So let's get started with doing that. So we need to come over to our code and into our style sheet. So we're going to affect the navigation tag, but really all we want to do is get at the anchors inside, so the links inside, right? So we're going to just hit nav and then the A tag. So we want to change the padding because we want to have a little bit of space around them. They're pretty close to each other now, so maybe we'll try 15 pixels here. So we'll try that, and then we want to make them uppercase, and so the style you use for that is called text transform. You see it gives you some options here when you start typing in Notepad++, which is nice. And we're going to say uppercase. So if you're ever looking for what style name affects something, definitely a good place to go is that website we looked at before, W3 Schools, or you can just do a Google search. No one ever memorizes all of these, so you could just text something like, how do I make my text uppercase in CSS, and you'll find the answer just by Googling that. And I'm also wanting to take the underline out, and the style that affects that is called text decoration. And we're going to say none. And we're going to close out this style with the curly brace. And let's have a look here, see what we get. So Control Save, back to our website, and let's have a look here. That's looking a little bit better. So I think we also maybe want to have our navigation bar be over to the right side of things. So that's typically what you would see on a website. More or less it's over to the right hand side. If you want to leave it here, that's also totally fine. But we're also seeing that we don't have any real padding at the top. So we've got padding around the sides and like at the bottom here maybe, but we don't really have any padding at the top. So we need to add another style in, and it's called display, and we want to do inline block. So let's come back here and change that as well. So we want to put, doesn't really matter where we put it. So it's called display, colon, and we're going to do inline block. I think I spelled that wrong. No, I didn't. Save. Let's come back here. So now we have our padding a little bit better. We've got some room at the top here. And we're going to come back to our code here, and we're going to make the navigation bar go to the right. So we wouldn't be changing just the anchor tags here or the link tags. So we actually have to change the whole navigation tag. So we're going to say nav and we're going to say text align colon and just say right. So just like we did text align earlier and center in some of the sections below, We can also do it left or right. I mean, it defaults to the left, but we can change it to the right. So again, Control Save. Okay, I think that's looking a lot better. We might need to change some fonts around, and I'll leave that up to you to do, but yeah, it's looking pretty good. So again, what they're going to do is take us to the About section, take us to the Projects section, and take us to the Favorite section, which we still have to do a bit of work too. So right now these links are like, okay, you can only really tell that they're links when you put your mouse over it, but we want to give them like a little bit of a cool effect kind of, so we can make them turn to a different color when we hover over them. So we can use some effects called the hover effect and change some things about our code when we hover over it. So let's go ahead and do that now. So while we're at it, we're going to add some hover effects for all of the links on this website, because the links down here at the bottom don't look so hot either. So we're going to change a few things about all of the links in here. So let's come back to our code, and we're going to put a bit of code in to give some padding to all of our links, and we're going to actually change some things about how they hover too. So let's use this code here. So for all of the anchor tags or the link tags, we're going to have a padding of 10 pixels. That's good. And for all the links, anytime we hover over them, we're going to put a border around it, and we're going to change the background. I don't want to change it to red. So I want the background to change to maybe like a gray. And our text can turn white's okay for now, so let's see how that looks. Okay, so we've got some gray around there and the text turns to white. That looks alright. Maybe we want to change that color to a little something else, maybe like the color down here. That would look a little better, I think. But let's come down here and check these links too. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better. I think we need to do some work with these still. But we want to make the navigation bar look a little bit different too, and we want to make sure that it stays at the top whenever we scroll down, because when we pick projects here, we see that the navigation bar isn't here as well. But we want to maybe style these up a little bit more than what we've got now. Okay, so I'm going to have some stuff that's just specific to the navigation bar too. So we're going to come back up here to the Nav A style, and we're going to add some margin to make them a little bit further away from each other. And I want the color of the text to be the same color that we had in this strong tag. So the strong tag that's around my name and Brilliant Labs and all those kinds of things in the header of our page. So let's make the text be that. And then when we hover over the navigation, I want the background to change to that color and the text to change to white. So the background is what is around it, and when we just say color, it changes the text that's in there. So let's have a look here and see what we have. So Control Save, Control S, and let's have a look here. Okay, so that changes it. Cool. So now when we hover over those buttons, they're a little bit rounded. Kind of neat. But I think we need this text to be a little bit bolder, and I don't really like this border around here. So it just looks a little bit old school. So let's come back here, and we're going to so we put that border in our general link, links. So this is where we're covering it here. So our navigation, we're specifically hitting those links with this one, but because we have a style in the general links style, it's kind of overriding it. So we'll have to remove this out of our general links in order to get rid of that. And we'll press Control Save, and text decoration, maybe we'll put here as bold. Let's come back here and see what that does. Oh, now we have our lines back. So let's go ahead and change that. So we're going to change that back to text decoration none, and then I just looked it up because I hadn't remembered either, but the code for changing whether something's bold or not is called font weight. And I'm going to say bold. Save that. Great. So now they're bold, and we have removed the little black border around it. So they look a little bit better. Cool. So again, you can play around with these fonts here if you want to. So let's go ahead, and the last thing that we need to do with our navigation bar is make sure that it doesn't disappear. So we need to go to our nav style, and we can see here that we already have a couple things in this style. We have the background color, which gives it that sort of tan color. We have the text aligned to the right, and we're also going to add in a position style. So position, and we're going to say that it's fixed. So that's going to keep it up at the top. And we also need to give it with position, we need to give it a top and a left value and also a width value. So it'll know it's going to stay there, and it's going to be, there's going to be no space at the top or the left, and also that the width is going to be 100%. So let's go ahead and do that. So top, and we're going to say that 0, because we already have the spacing that we want at the top. We don't want to put any more on. We're going to say left, and that's also going to be 0. We have the spacing that we want, so we don't need to mess with that. And the width is going to be 100% because we want it to fill up the whole screen, right? Just like it's doing now. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. And we're going to come over here. Now we can see our about, takes us to about, our projects, our favorites, and so it leaves it at the top here. So that's good. So even if we scroll down, we can see that our navigation bar stays where we want it to. Awesome. So the last thing we need to do is maybe tweak up these links here at the bottom because they still look not so great, and we'll do that right now. So if we come back to our code here, we're just going to use these general A styles, and we're going to make them specific to the footer, right? So just like we did here with the nav A, we're just going to add footer in here. And so footer A and footer A hover. So we want to have the padding be, we can actually maybe steal or borrow some of these styles from our navigation A too. So probably want a lot of these. So let's place this, and we'll bring these down here. So uppercase is probably good. We don't want the underlines either, maybe. Inline block is fine. Margin is fine. color. So the color, we probably want them to start as white because it's a pretty dark background down there, right? And the font weight can be bold. And then so maybe we want then when they get hovered over, we want the background to maybe turn to white, just the opposite, and that the text color when they're hovered over can turn to the text color that's on the background of the footer. So let's come down here and see what color we have on the footer. So we've got this color right here. It's just like the darkest kind of tealy color. So let's copy that and bring that up here to our footer hover. And let's put that in there. So let's see how that looks. So let's go to our favorites. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. Now when we hover over them, that looks alright. And maybe we want them to be rounded as well. Let's have a look. So we'll maybe change the border radius. So it makes it a little bit rounded. If we wanted to change the font color here as well, we could definitely do that. But I think you have all the skills now to be able to make those changes yourself. So I think that's about it. We've got ourselves a nice little starter website here, and go crazy. Add some more stuff to it.